Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I am here with Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar to look beyond Tawang. Whatever happened in Tawang, of course, there is a cost that China needs to pay for it. Their soldiers did. A lot more needs to be done. But we need to also look beyond Tawang as to how to handle China in the future. What is it that we can do? What are the actions that India can take? And it's not just military. We'll talk as a whole of nation approach, and let's see. Sir, thank you so much. Big events happened this week, and a lot of analysis has been done. But people are doing. We. I want to look beyond the incident and kind of see what is it going to come in the future.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adi. Uh, and a very good evening, good morning, wherever you are, to all our viewers. This incident, which has happened in Tawang, I think has got a lot of significance. I'm glad you did this show because rather than focusing on the incident per se, because that incident has passed, what are the fallout of this and where does it go from here is more important. And that is
Absolutely.
what I think we should talk about. Yeah. Let's start wherever you want. We can start.
Well, as a matter of fact, so first thing I want to start is by an analysis from your end, a military analysis, not just about the incident, but as a general who's also led forces in, I won't say combat in that area, but operations
Elsewhere. Yeah, yeah.
in
Understand.
that area, sir. Operations. What goes through a combat group when something like this happens, especially just looking at the Chinese side? What's the psyche that goes through? What's the message that runs through the entire unit?
Look, let me put it in this manner. Mm, I've served in this area.
So,
I've been to Yangtze. I've been to Yangtze. Okay, and I've been generally in that. But this was not now. Way back, way back in 92, 93.
so
Things would have changed. The word, I mean, the heights and all wouldn't have changed. The weather wouldn't have changed.
I
But
hope
the
not, sir.
road, no, the infrastructure and all would have changed. It's a very tough area. Believe you me, it's one of the toughest areas going around along our borders. Uh, okay, there you fight two things. One is the enemy. Second is the weather. The weather and the environment is almost 24/7 issue. You're constantly fighting for survival. It makes you tough, right? The second thing is enemy. Enemy actually there. I mean, these days it's hot. Those days it wasn't. We hardly saw Chinese. Okay. Now the thing is this. All these areas, incidentally, when people say, "Look, why are the Chinese doing this?" When they incurs that Sundarong Chu, we caught the heights elsewhere.
Hmm. Hmm.
At Yangtze, we are at a height. We overlook the Yang. Okay, I think I should go to a map and explain to you the
Absolutely,
view.
sir.
Yeah. Now, if you see this map, this is the entire northeast. You see Bhutan in the center, right? And you see Tawang. Now, right of Tawang, if you see a dotted line, that's the LAC. Okay. The rest of the alignment, where is Sikkim, where is Nepal, where is, what shall I say, Bangladesh, and you know, Myanmar is very clear. Okay, let's dive in a bit. When you look in, you see now this is the Tawang sector. Okay, if you see Tibet on the north, Tawang in the center, and Bhutan to the east. Sorry, to the west. Right. One green line is Bhutan, south of that, and the blue line is the LAC. There are three areas in this place where the LAC is permeable or established passes. One is Kenzamane. When you look at it from the west, Kenzamane is a valley, and it is through this valley that Dalai Lama came.
Hmm.
And, right, there's a right. The second is Bumla. Okay, where it's a very major pass. It's a flat pass, flattish pass. Other side is absolutely the approach from the Tibetan side to Bomla is very flat. The third on the right you see is Tulungla. Now Tulungla is one of the toughest passes in that area. It's at about 6,500. At that time, I was one of the few guys who went there. Okay, uh, 92. It took me 6-7 days to go to Tulungla. One of the toughest patrols I've done in my life. Um, Now, if you see between Boomla and Tulungla, I put a small circle. Somewhere in that area is Yangtze. Not exactly, somewhere. The thing about Yangtze is Yangtze uh, is also it's a pasture ground.
Mm.
You can get through the pass there, right? And the peaks around Yangtze, Yangtze per se is not this thing. The peaks around Yangtze gives you a look into Boomla on our side or their side, both sides. If you stand on the watershed out there, you can see both sides. We are standing
Okay.
on the watershed there.
Mm.
Okay. So we get a good idea of what's going on in Bumla. Now, these guys try to dislodge us and get to our side. Then they know what's happening on our side. The moment they know what's happening on our side, it opens up a lot of things. I mean, you have to understand this. Okay. What does it open up? It gives you an avenue to get to the rear of Bumla. And you can outflank Bumla defenses, which means you're outflanking a lot of things. Otherwise, you can go swing towards Tulungla and come down, and that's another thing.
Mago.
You can come
Yeah.
down and you can get behind Tawang. In fact, if
Tawang.
you
Mm.
go come via Tulungla, you can get behind Tawang. And the Chinese did it in '62.
62. Yes, sir.
Incidentally, okay, the Chinese came uh, and they were behind Tawang. They came behind. There's a place called Dirang. They came somewhere there and they were knocking at Bomdila, and people had evacuated and gone back, and they had put some roadblocks and all that. Why am I telling you this? Why I know this is only one reason. I have an emotional connect. The unit which I commanded, the unit which I served in maximum 5 field regiment, uh, was part of the Sela garrison, and we lost two batteries out there. One battery we lost uh, ahead of Sela, and the somewhere between Kenzamane and Sela, if I put it. Sela is south of Tawang,
South. Yeah.
and right. So for us, it is you know very emotional in our unit. So in 91, 92, our unit wanted a posting back to this. We sought it and went there, and we reconstructed the events of the 62 ops. As part of the reconstruction of the 62 ops, we walked all over the place. So I am very clear about this area. I walked from Sela to Tulungla cross country. I walked from Dirang to Tulungla cross country. Not Tulungla, part of, up to a place called Mago cross country. And I saw how the Chinese did what they did. And because I was a battery commander those days, a major, young major, walking around the countryside like a llama. I was the Gama in the area of the llamas.
Government.
Okay. So I know this area well. So, so it allows you from Tulungla to come down further south, entry into Yangtze. So it gives you options, right? And then it is not a major option by itself. Okay. Now, if you look at the incident per se, this is a not a land grab in the routine manner. Okay. So if you get at this militarily, you get a site behind, and you get a foothold, and you get a foothold. You can expand it and get to the other side, and you know uh, the first step, the first
like a
slice of the salami. Okay, this is
like
the
a
first
beachhead
slice of
sort of a
the
thing,
salami.
right?
But why is all this important? You have to this thing. Now, if you look at Bhutan, I have marked this place called Sakteng. Sakteng is over 100 kilometers in depth. The 2 years back, just after the Eastern Ladakh, Galwan and all that, the Chinese laid claim on Sakteng out of the blue. They
Yes, sir.
said, "Look, this is part of uh, uh, South Tibet. Why is it South Tibet? Because it abuts Tawang. Some bloody logic they'll give. But they said this is Sakten. The whole idea is if tomorrow they pressurize Bhutanese army or Bhutan and the army enters here and does some put some troops into Sakteng in that Sakteng area, build road. It's not This is not a 1 day affair. It's going to be a 1 year, 10 year, 15 year affair. And they get behind us in Sakteng. Then we are looking at the LAC and they do something at Yangtze or along the LAC at Kanzamane or whatever, and you are fixed on the LAC and they come and sit behind us in Sakteng, it becomes dangerous. Okay, and we all say uh, China does everything on a long-term basis, and there's part of that. You get my point? Okay, so giving them 1 inch also on the LAC has long-term ramifications. Today, some chap might say it's a rock. It's not a rock. It's a foothold. That foothold will become an elephant hold. An elephant hold will become a lodgement. A lodgement will become an area tomorrow. That's how Chinese have done. That's how they captured made those islands in the South China Sea.
Yeah.
So the danger of this, one has to understand in depth. If you understand that, then the rest everything is okay. I hope you're getting this. The importance of Tawang, importance of Yangtze. And he gets a view behind Bumla, whatever we do. Okay, he'll observe us. Then he can infiltrate. He can do a lot of things. Okay, right. Now, if you see, this is the kind of a terrain. I put 3 yellow lines. The first line on the left along Kenzamane, it comes along the valley. The Bumla axis comes along a slope. It's a gentle slope from that side. And Tulungla comes through the valley, it goes behind Tawang. It goes along the Tawang River. Chu is a river. So this is what they have tried there. Yeah. Now I think and you see, I put the Yangtze area in the center. I might be wrong, because the maps are not exactly correct. I might be wrong in the way this thing, and neither is that LAC the right thing because I've drawn it. It's not exact. I must admit, but this is to prove a point and explain the issue to all of you. Okay. Yeah. So, any questions so far, Adi? Then and we'll take it forward.
Oh yes, sir. As a matter of fact, this is
I
an
can't hear you.
interesting. Oh, is it? Can you hear me now, sir?
I still can't hear you.
Oh, that's
Can you hear me?
funny.
Yeah. Can you?
Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Perfect. So basically, what I want to ask you, right, at the get-go, now Tawang is something that comes into focus with Sakteng, and we've discussed Sakteng in one of our neighborhood watch shows also. I think about a year and a half ago. So year and a half ago is something that we've been talking about this. We've also in our first show, if I may, you and I, we've discussed, will the Chinese ever come back?
Yeah.
In there, we have very clearly said this is the space. Now, there are two things which I want to ask. One, why is it that this space is so this thing for them? Because Arunachal has got a huge this thing. So post Tawang, what?
Look, the fundamental thing is, this entire they claims this entire belt of Arunachal Pradesh as South Tibet. Okay, it comes from that fundamental claim. Why is it South Tibet? There was no South Tibet before 2003. The entire claim of South Tibet starts after 2003. We had this agreement, mutual understanding of the that's when we recognized Tibet and they recognized Tibet as part of China and they recognized Sikkim as part of India.
Hmm.
If you didn't recognize Tibet as part of China, there's no South Tibet. But the moment you recognize Tibet, they started asking for this.
Yeah.
Again, salami slicing. Okay. Their tactics, creeping, AK ले लो, incrementally go for it. So that is one. Uh, and then over now the third step, South Tibet मांग लिया तो अभी Sakting भी ले लो so that you get the whole thing. Why they want? Because the sixth Dalai Lama was from Tawang. They
Yeah.
feel that if the sixth Dalai Lama is from Tawang and the Dalai Lama is the head, the temporal and the spiritual head of Tibet, all Tibetans, and if he's from Tawang, it should be Tawang is part of Tibet.
It's the
And if
battle of to
Tawang,
control Tibet.
yeah,
Mm.
right, uh, Tawang is part of Tibet because after Lhasa, the Tawang is one of the biggest monasteries of Tibetan Buddhism. That strain. And then, since Tawang is a major part of, a very important part of Arunachal, they claim the entire Arunachal as South Tibet.
How convenient.
Now, how convenient? The convenience is tomorrow when then the moment you claim, then they'll claim India also next, so that you get given Arunachal. You don't give Arunachal, they'll say give us Tawang and we'll settle. So this is a bargaining thing. But now that they've upped the ante by going for Sakting, they've upped the ante now further by attempting at Yangtze. And it is not as if the Chinese have not done this. You see, the Sikkim border, okay, we'll go back to this thing. The Sikkim border is a delimited border. So, right, there's no LAC there. Okay. Now they tried Nakula. Nakula is in the north, where the tri-junction between Nepal, Tibet, and Sikkim, or India is. Somewhere in that area. They tried incursion there, if you remember, 2 years back. There
Two
were
years
two
back.
face-offs. There were two face-offs where one of our chaps hit one Chinese officer and broke his teeth and all that. Okay. And they've tried in Doklam also. Doklam, is at the
Yeah.
that Nok. That
The other
V.
side, tri-junction.
Yeah. Okay. That V which comes in, the Chumbi Valley. Now, they didn't come this side towards India. They went the other side. They were incursing into Bhutan and pressurizing Bhutan. That's the whole thing about the Doklam thing. So the Chinese have no respect for borders. It doesn't matter whether it's an international border or a LAC or whatever. He is always looking to expand. Or the LAC, he is looking to expand. He'll do, if you don't stop him, he will do exactly to us what he did in South China Sea. He claimed the islands, then he did landfill, and since USA at that point of time looked away, ignored what China did, China promised USA that we will not build the islands, but it built. And not only it built the island, it even militarized them. And today, because of that, they're very strong out there. Similarly, if you give him a foothold, you are stuck. He will promise everything, but the Chinese history is that a Chinese promise is no promise. There's no treaty with China. The only treaty with China has to be across the rifle. Okay, he understands this well.
Mm.
Okay, so if you look at it in this context, okay, I think our chaps did a tremendous job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you still want the map, or we can
No, we can take that also.
Yeah, I think our men did a tremendous job by kicking the Chinese out. I mean, I'll not go into the semantics of they had more casualties, we had more casualties. That's not the issue. So this is not a small skirmish. It's a planned operation which was thwarted.
Absolutely.
One major thing comes out. Look, our men are tough. We have proven it. Even in Eastern Ladakh, when we outmaneuvered them in the Kailash range, okay, we outmaneuvered the Chinese in the Kailash range, and that's how we forced them to go back 8 kilometers. If you
And that
remember,
too under their nose.
under their nose. Here also, we've thrown them out. Just 50 of our soldiers were there on that picket. They were 300, 2 to 300 people who had come. Our reactions, everything was good enough, and we threw them out. Our guys are tough. There's no doubt about it. And it also proves that the Chinese are not capable. Their PLA is not capable. I mean, I read a very funny article, and that too in New York Post. Okay, that these guys masturbate more than anything else. Look, I'm not joking. Huh? This is what a New York Post in an article has, what shall I say, put it out. I can give you the link also. In fact, I've
I'll
tweeted it
find it
here.
and put in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. The PLA capability is only that much. And we as a nation and people who are watching this all over should realize that the PLA is not tough army. We can handle them. Let's not make this China man 2 feet tall China man. In fact, he's not growing taller in my eyes, he's growing shorter. Okay. Why has they done this? A lot of questions. Have they done it to retaliate against us for the exercises, Indo-US exercises we did in Oli a month back? Or is it to stop us from carrying out our space program, which we have done, or the rocket test? Is it done to fix our attention on the LAC so that they can slip into the IOR?
That also they ran away, sir.
Yeah, right. Is it to ensure that we don't carry out our air exercise so that the focus is here, raise the tension, grab a play. It would have been great. You just think if suppose they had taken and they had pushed our thing back or post back, you would have had to cancel that air exercise.
Yeah, yeah.
The tension should have gone up. You would have been made to look like a fool. They would have never gone back. Okay. And then PLA is the greatest army and India is the weakest nation.
Yeah.
You are a competitor. You have been made to look like a fool. It's a message to the rest of the world. All these calculations are there. And what's more important, now China is going through a problem, internal problem, societal problem, COVID problem, every problem. Now nationalism in China is going down. One victory on the LAC against India, which is supposed to be our peer competitor, means hell of a lot to Xi Jinping. In fact, today morning I just saw, article in South China Morning Post which says, "Don't go for Chinese stocks, go for Indian stocks."
Yeah, I know.
Huh?
It's a opinion piece written by
Some chap called Spyro, if I'm not
Spyro.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not an Indian. There's not an
No,
Indian
he's a
who's saying it.
Westerner, sir.
Some guy, and South China Morning Post publishes it. So that's the weight of India today. Now, against all this, how do you show India down? A military defeat. You don't need to exactly defeat India militarily, everything. All you have to do is grab a place and say, look at this army, they can't even stop that. They can't stop PLA. That's the whole thing. Now, if you look at it in this entirety, this is what comes out. So, what have you achieved today? Important thing is, what have you achieved? You have thwarted a major attempt by China. Now you can make him look like a fool, and you must make him look like a fool.
No question, sir.
Okay. Incapable guys. Right? So, I hope people understand what we are talking.
No,
And
actually, sir, I can see the comments and people are understanding what we are talking
no,
about.
no, no.
It's
See, if suppose they had won or they had thrown our post out, it would have been the greatest victory, and Xi Jinping would have been screaming from top of Beijing.
one Xi Jinping and second on the other side also.
Yeah,
His
everyone.
beta also will start off.
Oh, everyone.
Hmm.
If now that they've been thrown out, then no, 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 we only stopped Indian people from encouraging. It's the Indians who have done the wrong thing. We have defended our own land. He's already started that narrative. Underplay it. No casualties. Now, 2 years down the line, it is very clear that China have had more casualties in Galwan than what they have accepted.
Yeah, yeah. Lots more, sir.
Same thing here. That psychology. And remember, the LAC is a political issue in China. It is not a military issue. In India, we treat the LAC more as a military issue. How you defend it militarily. We need to think of it as political.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. So that is the thing which I mean, this is what I had to say. Any questions now?
Absolutely, sir. I think, this is my next question, and I think somebody has read my mind. Thank you, sir, Mr. Naveen, for your question. History tells us China doesn't respect soft power and understanding. They seem to respect strength. Hard options. Now, when you say hard options, I'm going to look at a whole of nation approach and ask you, sir,
Yeah.
what do we do?
Look, there's a hell of a lot we can do, and we must do. First, you have to build your military. And I'm afraid I've written it as much in Indian Express in my article on Tawang, Galwan to Tawang, in the op-ed. My op-ed has gone. Our military modernization is, what shall I say, episodic. Many
Knee
of our
jerk.
major program, knee jerk. I won't say knee jerk, it's episodic. It's slow. It's been 8 years and our strategic partnership model for submarines has not come through,
Yeah.
right? Or we needed a light tank 3 years back, and we knew that we needed a light tank. We have the technology, we have the chassis, everything. We are still now seeking AON after 3 years. And then you'll go RFI, then you'll go through the whole thing. It'll take you another 10 years to get a light tank. By then, you don't need to fight China. Either that fellow is here or you're gone. Why this delay? I don't understand. You need firepower because he's got massive firepower, and you've seen Ukraine. What's happening there? So why are you not enhancing your firepower on an emergency basis? Why don't you have a drone program? Why don't you have a national mission for drones instead of buying small chutput things from startups? And DRDO has failed us. Let me be very clear about it on this drone program. For the past 20 years, they've been telling us that we'll give you Rustum, Rustum, Rustum. Rustum is not even flown. Okay. And same thing will happen with this tank. So we need to do this. Then this Agnipath, Agniveer program. What is the difference today which has happened in Yangtze? The difference is the Indian soldier who has been tougher than the PLA. If you do not modify Agniveer, you are going the PLA route. You have to modify it. I'm not against the Agnipath or Agniveer. You need to modify it intelligently. It's been 6 months. Nothing. Is there a review? Your greatest strength is your man on ground. He's proven it in Eastern Ladakh. He's proven it today.
Mm-hmm. It's
Why
proven
are
it
you
time and
tampering
again.
with it? People will give the left arm and left leg. That's it. Chinese will do anything to take our men.
The only thing that is going wrong for China is their men.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Then you need to very seriously look at the cyber business. Look
Yeah.
at the AIMS attack.
Ames is a disaster, sir.
Look at how we've allowed the cheap Chinese phones to invade our thing and take big data, and so that they can build their AI. I've written an article about it, about Chinese AI and national security. So when someone says hard options, there are enough hard options. Okay. Then of course, look, at the same time, it's only India which has banned TikTok and things like that. No other country has done it. And People in USA are saying, "Look, India has done the wise thing. Take their lead." I'm cognizant of the fact. I'm not being critical about the government of India, but I'm critical to the extent that we need to do more, and
Absolutely, sir.
we have to recognize that this threat and clear and present danger. And we are more interested in Pakistan. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we'll go to Pakistan. Usko thodo." क्या करोगे तोड़ के उसको? Concentrate on this fellow.
That is stupid rhetoric, sir.
No, whether it's rhetoric or not, the fact is there's a lot of people in India who are still looking towards Pakistan.
वो सर ब्लाइंडर लगे हुए हैं लोगों के, नो, they've got
हाँ,
that.
you need to look at let him go. उसको तो वैसे भी तेल नहीं है, वो भी जो तेल है वो भी जल रहा है. वो तालिबान को बिठाया उधर, तालिबान खुद इसको मार रहा है. तो उसको छोड़ो यार. Let's get on with this fellow. Let's put in our might, the entire national effort behind him.
Countering
E-
China.
Even today, as we talk, the Yuan Wang 5 is in IOR. Okay. So, this is it. We need to more focus more. If you're going to be a $7 trillion budget GDP by say 2030, as Deutsche Bank says, you must give more to for your military and enhance capacities. You're going to be a major power by then, global power. And I'm going to write about this shortly. In fact, maybe tomorrow I'll put this article out. You're going to be a global power. You need a military. Without a good military, you can't do anything. Yeah.
Global power is part of military. Is, I mean, power is what?
See, we're
Danda
talking of
also, sir.
hard. Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt.
Yeah, without danda,
Yeah,
nothing works.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think your point is very well taken, sir. There's no question about it. उसका तो
yeah.
कोई वो ही नहीं है.
Hey, but we need to. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Sanjay.
Sanjeev says India keeps defending against Chinese moves that needs to change. Do not mean military context only.
Yeah, I agree with him. In certain cases, we need to defend, and certain cases we need to take the offensive. And I think militarily, you don't need to go aggressive. It's a waste of time, given the terrain. You hold the ridge lines. There's no point going down on the other side. Okay, if you have to do a corporate co-action, you can do. That's okay. That option we have, and we have the capability to do what we want. But we need to be more aggressive economically, diplomatically, and politically. I agree with him. We need to be a little more aggressive. At the same time, I wouldn't sound like a hawk to say, okay, just go whole-headed, be balanced.
Mhm.
Look, I am not, again, I'm okay with what our government is doing to some extent. I think we need to expand it.
There's always scope for improvement, sir.
Yeah, there's scope for improvement.
Always.
That's what I seek from my government.
Yeah.
If my prime minister has not spoken to Xi Jinping, or not even barring an acknowledgement in the G20 summit, it is a major message which is already given to the geopolitical message, which is right. Okay, there's no doubt. I have no doubt. I'm proud that our external affairs ministers talks the way he talks and articulates the way he does. It's a positive way of doing things. But I think we need to do more in the middle level.
Bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy, I wouldn't say bureaucracy only, the other ministries, specific actions, send clear messages out to people. Okay. And you must also realize that every day these days I see in the South China Morning Post a lot of articles about India.
Mm-hmm. They're keeping a keen eye on what's happening.
Very keen on what's happening, and they're worried. Okay, and maximize it. Of course, India will do what it is required. India is unstoppable, but that's a different story. We'll discuss about that when I publish that article. Okay.
वो तो करना है, sir. We sell ourselves short also.
Yeah, we need to have that strategic confidence.
We sell ourselves short also. There are issues, and there are issues in every country, but we
Yeah, yeah,
sell ourselves
like,
short quite a
sure.
bit of time.
Yep.
Naveen sir, thank you so much for your contribution. General Shankar, we seem to have sort of international support against China. How reliable is USA West in general against the Chinese given their economic dependence?
Let me put it this way. First and foremost, do I need that support to handle China? India is the counterweight for the West against China. Without India, they can go nowhere. We don't need support. We need their cooperation. There's a difference between support and cooperation. We need a partnership with them, and that has to be long term. We can handle China.
We don't want to be a Ukraine.
Yeah, we don't want to be in Ukraine. Let's do our trick the way we want it to the best of our
Yeah,
interests.
abilities.
I won't say interests. What suits Indian interests, we should do. Okay. Uh, that strategic confidence you should have. The West will come. Don't have doubts. We are, we are. That's what I said. We are too powerful. We don't know what our power is. Yeah. Next question.
It's, I mean,
Look, you can say, oh, यार ये तो होता नहीं है हमारे इसमें हमारा
नहीं नहीं सर वो बात नहीं
एक्स
है,
वाई
जब
जेड.
करने को आता है इंडिया गेट्स डाउन टू इट, ओहो।
Look, I our nation has got a lot of defects. We're not a rich nation. We're still a poor nation. You can you can point out any number of defects in our nation, but we're still together a very powerful nation. Yeah,
But sir,
that's
when
my
we
view.
get down to it, you know what happens after that.
Yeah,
COVID was a clear example.
yeah.
I mean, when the country gets down to it,
Today in Beijing, there is fear of COVID.
there's no food.
There's no food. Today in Hong Kong, there's a study by some university in Hong Kong which says there'll be 1 million deaths likely in China.
Yeah.
These same buffoons showed us in such poor light when we were having problems. What are we talking of? Yeah.
Uh, Good evening, General. Shouldn't we back off from the MOU signed with China on opening fire, including in the Ladakh region?
Look, MOUs, it's good to keep the temperature down. We shouldn't get into unnecessary firefights because it can escalate and get nuclear powers.
Nuclear powers.
Right? We don't need to escalate it. This is okay. I'm okay with this. But if the necessity arises, we should open up.
Absolutely.
The the implied threat is more important than the applied threat. Okay, you imply your threat and calibrate it so that the threat is more. And look, this is the thing which China uses. China uses this principle. They imply a threat, they don't apply it. They rarely apply it. When they apply it, they apply it with thing. I'm not saying we should do the Chinese way. I've said this. The implied threat. It's not the Chinese who said it. Carry a
I'm going to
big.
I'm going to take your permission to use this phrase. So
Yeah, please
this
go
is a
ahead.
good one, I
Uh,
must say.
okay,
It is what our policy should be actually.
should be imply your threat. Okay.
The communists claim the world. Everything else is a temporary claim.
Yeah, fine. Take it. They can claim Mars also from my side. They can go to Moon, Mars, Sun. वो कहीं भी जाए. They need not come into India. Yeah.
We need to reduce the import bill with China. They are doing mischievous things against us with our money.
Yeah, I agree with them. We have to. We have to find ways to do it. On
And I've
that, I
said
am
this
not
earlier,
worried.
sir, the blame goes to consumer products because if you look at the ratios, and I've been doing study, API has dropped. A lot of other things which at a government and a corporate level are imported has dropped. It's the
Yeah,
consumer goods which are going up. So
I
that's
agree
something which
with that.
is
We need to think of. It's the common man who has to weigh in.
So government needs to take people, opposition in confidence. Clarity of approach on political diplomatic level is a must. Strength lies in democratic process, which is an advantage to India.
Completely agree, 100%. There's no two ways. We need to have a bipartisan approach on all issues, a clear roadmap, and a plan. That is a political message. If it goes across to China, will have its own effect. On that, I have no doubt about it. Look, take the example of USA. USA put its foot down at one point of time, and they said we're going to delist Chinese firms unless we are clear about their audit. Today's news again in South China Morning Post. The Chinese firms are giving out their audit reports to US to by Deklo. So that works.
Sir, even here, the Western Theatre Commander spokesperson said, "We request India to hold back their troops and so because they
What
got a
he get?
whack."
Right,
So
that's okay. Let's not go into what that chap said. But I'm giving you a thing. You have to be firm. You have to be clear, and he'll listen.
absolutely. So this is an interesting comment. I mean, I want to twist this a little bit. We would have been looking at another Kargil if they would have captured the tops. I want to twist this a little bit, sir.
Yeah.
Kargil, we opened fire and went and got them out. Would we do that?
See, the point is this. I don't know what would have happened if they had captured, but it would have been a real bad situation. That let's be very clear. I told you why we would have been looking like fools if we had this had happened. So I leave it at that. Whether we would have done it the Kargil way, non-Kargil way, अगर बातचीत करते रहो, we would have had to go across somewhere. We need not exactly do. Look, you don't have to do exactly what he does. You have to leverage him out. So how that leverage would have done, we'll see. But like we did in Kailash range.
That's
So
yeah.
there are a lot of options available. It's not that the world would have ended, but definitely you would have looked like a fool if they had been successful. The fact is that you might get your reputation back, but the thing immediately is that he would have got his mileage, and you would be on the you would be on a catch up scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, yes, sir, because the global south today is looking at India for leadership, and if you
Yeah.
get, so it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Mhm.
So I think this is very close to your heart. I think Agniveer is ill conceived, but if well designed, would give a lot of
Yeah,
benefits.
I'm completely in agreement. I've written so many articles about it. Let me put it across. Let me be very fair. I've spoken to a lot of senior army officers. They're cognizant of what the problems are. They are cognizant. I mean, to be very fair to them. Uh, some of them have uh, come back and said, "Look, what did you mean when you wrote this, and all that?" And some of them have said, "Look, your figures are pretty good. How did you get hold of them?" I said, "I didn't get hold of them. I work from first principles of common military knowledge." And that model, I'm very clear. But what I want, what I this thing is that it's not only the military. The army, navy, and the air force have to come on one page with the government and come out with a roadmap which is better than what it is. The existing roadmap is the one which you started with, which is not going to function. And if this is a long-term roadmap, in 6 months you have not changed it or not given an indication of change, I have a problem.
Indeed, no questions.
How how are you going to put your best strength on the anvil? You need to make it stronger. How do you make it stronger? Not with a present plan. That's all.
No, absolutely, sir. I think that's you know, if I may, and just take 30 seconds because the opposition to Agniveer is like hata do usko.
No, no.
So,
That I don't agree with.
what you're
No,
saying is how
you
to improve it to actually get.
get going. Make it a running affair. Make it look as a government of India. They have announced it. It doesn't look good for us to go back completely. How do you make it a success? Is the thing which I have written about. I've been the biggest critic of Agniveer. Okay, I'm still the biggest critic of Agnivir in the current form. You need to amend it. That's all. Start
Just the
amending it.
fact.
Let the public know what are you doing based on the feedback you got to amend it. Be done. I am fully with it. People need
But it's
not
nice
take
to
my
know people got in touch with you, sir.
people need not take my suggestions. I am not interested in it. I am not interested in being right. I'm interested in being wrong. If they can take this, whatever little suggestions I've given, and they modify it, because see, sitting here outside the service, I can talk what I want. But the guys who are handling this thing on ground, they know the complexities, they know the rules and regulations, they know the legalities of the whole issue, they know the practicalities of the whole issue, they know day-to-day issues. Let them put it out. Let them, the official people who are responsible for it, who are being paid for it, they can confer on this whole thing. I'm very sure they will do it. They will eventually do it, and this will spur them to do it. Let them come out with a plan, better plan. That's all.
May I say this, sir? Uh, the people in the forces right now in the leadership roles are guys trained, some of them probably by you. So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. A lot of them are my
On a
youngsters.
lighter
Okay.
note, on a lighter
No,
note, sir.
no,
Just
no,
to,
no. See,
you know.
look, I'm a veteran.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
So
they do
I know
respect your
them.
opinions,
I
sir.
mean, they are very capable chaps. Our leadership is capable. I have no doubt about it.
No, no, no. What I'm saying is, so the right lessons have gone into them.
Look,
So they will, I'm
whether it's
sure,
a
come up with.
whether it's the right lesson or not is, to me, irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether I'm wrong or right. It matters to me that India is right, the army is right, the air force is right, and the navy is right. Let them
Absolutely.
do the right thing. That's it. And have confidence that they'll do. But the pace is what I need a little more clarity on. Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you and respect that sentiment as well, sir. Naveen Saab, thank you so much. Jansa, it seems both sides don't want escalation. It seems to be an exercise in domestic and international projection. How can we manage the image of India's power?
Look, I go with what Naveen is saying. No one wants escalation. But within the band, China is one country with, when you deal with, you should know that they will do a calibrated uh, aggressiveness, salami slice, and incremental approach. That is what they're using now. So you need to be alive to it and you have to react to it. That's why I drew that comparison with South China Sea and this place. If if the world, the international lot, and people who are now trying to manage the Pacific part, when I talk of the Pacific part, I'm talking of USA, Japan, Philippines, Taiwan, Vietnam, Indonesia, all these chaps, and Malaysia had taken the right steps. Those islands wouldn't have been made in South China Sea. If the islands were not made in South China Sea, China wouldn't be so powerful as it is today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barack
Now,
Obama.
yeah. Now you allow them, and this will become a South China Sea kind of an affair. So it's good we are doing what we are doing. I'm okay with it, and we don't need to do anything more. Why should you get involved in a costly war and derail your own economy? To hell with China. I'm not bothered about what they do. I'm bothered about India. I'm not interested. I'd rather be defensive. Defensive doesn't mean that you there's no inherent offense in it. The implied threat versus the applied threat. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Barking dogs don't bite, and
We don't
biting
need
dogs
to.
don't
We
bark.
don't need to. Yeah.
I think if few Chinese died every time they tried a misadventure, these misadventures would stop for good. What do you think, sir? Can we afford to be this bold?
Look, this is Kamal. What the Chinese do, you cannot control. What you can
Mm.
do, you can control. Let's do that. As simple as that. And let's do it effectively. Okay. So, and we need to pitch our strength against their weakness. That's the fundamental thing. What is your strength? Pitch it against his weakness. Okay. That is more important to me than anything else. Look, people talk of economy, this, that. Yeah, ultimately, he has to come and take your territory. To take your territory, you need a tough army. If you have a tough army, end of story. And you in high altitude, you don't need AI, you don't need cyber, you don't need anything because nothing functions there. It's the man versus man situation. If your men are better trained, better acclimatized, better more mobile in high altitude, they'll do the trick. And as of today, the Indian Army is better, one of the best armies in those conditions. Thank you.
Ta ta. That's done.
Oh,
This is a good one. So first of all, the
oh,
shirt looks
thank
great.
you. Thank you.
Is it safe to say that India understates its ability, especially in military? And is it like our version of information warfare?
Well, I don't know, but we do underestimate ourselves. Like I said, just wait a day or two. I'm going to put it
This
out.
we need to talk about, sir. Man, I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
itching
we'll
you
put
for
it.
this for a long time. This we
I,
need to address.
just wait for a day or two. I'm going to put out a article, and then that article will you'll after that we can have a discussion on that.
And guys, there are close to 200 people here. I'd request all of you for that particular session. And I'll tell you probably a day in prior. Please spread the message so that we get a large amount of people watching that show, because it's important that we understand where and what we think of ourselves and how we can change our own thinking. There's a lot of backlog that we need to get rid of. And something else. That is what I'm saying. Sir, do MOUs have any legal sanctity?
No, there's no legal sanctity. Where will you go to? MOU is an understanding between two countries. We can all break it up anyway. And with China, there's no sanctity of anything. It's only a broad understanding. It's a memorandum of understanding. There's nothing legal about it. It could be in corporate terms. There could be something else. But between countries, you just understand and you have relations. Breaking those is undermining your relations. That's about all.
That's an interesting comment that you've made, sir, because undermining is a very interesting word that you why would you, I mean, how would you kind of expand that
Look,
just for a short
for
this
the
thing, sir?
simple reason, when you deal with countries like China, they get into MOU to gain time and get to put themselves in a position of advantage. And then they'll undermine that MOU by doing something to their interest. So national interest comes first always in every MOU. The MOU at that point of time defines a common interest, common line. The moment that common line is no more comfortable to you, you undermine it.
That is what I wanted to get out. As a matter of fact, I was just actually thinking, are they doing this to buy time? And you said it
Yeah, yeah.
literally. So it's
There's no
something which
doubt. Let's not have doubts.
when you said
They're
that
not
one
only
word,
doing it.
it just
Yeah,
yeah,
anything with China. Look, China is the least trustworthy nation today, as far as I'm concerned.
true.
And it is not only as far as I'm concerned. I think many people understand this. So we have to play this game. You can't wish away this fellow across 3,500 kilometers of your LAC. And then उसका छोटा भाई है इधर वो भी another 3,000 kilometers of border with Pakistan. वो इसका बाप है.
Kani Zara wo, by the way.
Hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Sir, this is an interesting question. Why can't we have salami slicing when LAC is porous? We should also retake our own land.
See, I agree with you that this is the sentiment which is going around. But for that, you need to be stronger. You need to be militarily, diplomatically, everything stronger. The day you get stronger, you can do what you want. We are not that strong. We are strong, but we are not that strong. And there are certain, other actions you have to start. You have to do the political. You, the whole thing is not just military. You have to approach this politically. Politically, if you do this politically, then there is hope. There's a lot of depth in what I'm talking. Okay, you have to do it politically. Are you politically strong enough to do that? You don't have uh, political consensus in what you want to do, right? Within India. So unless you build that political consensus internally, you can't do it externally.
Uh,
This is not a military issue, incidentally.
it's a whole of
It-
nation issue.
It's a whole of nation issue. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. This is something that I think we need to understand. We always say, "Yeah, military, military, intelligence fail." Bull. Stop buying these little tinklets. Stop buying these little useless electronics that you throw after 3 years, or not even 3 years, 3 days. Uh, China Kamal at the end of it. So if we do that, I think it'll help us quite a bit in terms of this thing. So, but one thing that I want to ask before I get into the last two questions is, when we talk about countering China, the common perception, I think, which needs to be changed within India, that it has to be a military counter. When we talk about countering Pakistan, it is always military counter. We took this up when we were speaking about how can India take back the POK. Why does everything need to be a military thing?
We don't need to be
Military is
military.
part of a
Yeah. You
whole
need
approach.
you need a military approach, you need a political approach, you need a diplomatic approach, and you need an economic approach. The four levers of power. Okay. So let's and soft power also. A lot of
Both of
things go in. See, again, it comes down to one fundamental thing. We need to have a national security strategy, which we don't have. Even Pakistan has.
and national security document.
So
Yes.
there's no point, you and I talking here. कि ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए, क्यों नहीं करना चाहिए? Lot of people in many channels have said, ये कौन सा lieutenant general है who talks of peace? I'm not talking of peace or war.
That's a funny one.
Yeah, people have said, okay, we need to have a strategy.
Yeah.
We need to have a national strategy. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So what you're saying is actually very relevant. Um, General Shankar fires like heavy artillery with precision. Greatly impressed with the positive approach to every problem.
Thank you. I'm a gunner and I like to be precise.
Yes, sir. Naveen Saab, thank you so much once again. I mean, Naveen Saab is very kind, I must say. He's been
Thank you.
supporting me for a while.
Yeah.
Sir, one of the objectives behind the salami slicing approach is divert our focus away from the
Yeah.
seas to the Himalayas.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've written about it. Please read my article in my op-ed in Indian Express, 15 December, page 7. It's there. I've written about it. Yes.
It- a lot of I'm just kind of going to the comments. A lot of people say that why don't we actually do the similar kind of salami slicing tactics? You've kind of answered that. One person actually refers to a factor that why don't we keep some area with us as an exchange tactic as well? See,
Look, you do all that when it's required, not unnecessarily.
yeah.
You don't
So
escalate things to a situation where you have to, you know, the military is the last option in all these things. Yeah.
I'll take this as an interesting question as the last one, sir. Do you think China is trying to take our attention away from Pakistan, or maybe trying to protect Pakistan? That's why they opened a front here, so we will not do anything against Pakistan.
No, nothing of that sort. I don't think we should do anything to Pakistan. I told you the best policy against Pakistan is to let it do what it wants. Yeah, उनके पास तो है ना. You have Taliban. Afghan Taliban are doing to them what you want them to do. What you can't do, they are doing. I have said Pakistan is the Sinbad the soldier, क्या sailor, with the old man Afghanistan on his head. वो उतरेगा नहीं. गले पड़ के है तो उसको एक बार चढ़ा दिया सर पे, वो उतरेगा नहीं. And Pakistan झेलता रहेगा उसको. And his problem is in the West. I think we'll discuss this on say maybe Sunday.
Exactly, sir. But a last comment on Xi Jinping. This kind of this thing within his party, within his opposition, builds a certain amount against him.
यार उसको जाने को, वो will talk about it later. But let's see.
कुछ तो I mean, I कुछ तो pressure आएगा, sir. There's no question.
Yeah, there would be. But we will
Protests.
never look. I've told you already that this will be downplayed within.
It's already been, sir.
Yeah. So that
It's already been.
yeah, it will be downplayed. He'll say as if it is our incursion, etc., etc. So that will they'll manage.
Thanks, sir. I think we've had fun, but some serious talks today where we need to realize what India needs to do. We've done well. There's no question. Miles to go before we get to
Sleep.
bed or get to sleep, as they say, and that's something that we need to understand. A lot of times, and I can read a lot of the comments. People do get frustrated. And that frustration channeled badly can actually get into a bad thing, but that frustration channeled well can do so much wonderful things for this country. So my request to everybody is, uh, you know look at what we can do, each one of us contribute to the
Yeah,
greater cause of our nation, and that's
yeah.
even if it is countering a Chinese propaganda. Do that, and that's
Every
it.
every drop of water makes an ocean. So let's each
Absolutely,
of us do what we can. Uh,
absolutely, absolutely,
don't expect the other guy to do something. Do it yourself. The buck
absolutely. So
the
that's
buck
something.
stops with each of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's something I wanted to close this by, sir, because at the end of it, yes, frustrations will be there, questions will always be there, but JFK said it, look at what you can do for your own country rather than what the country can do for you. So, and sir said, as each and every one of us are drops of water in this large ocean called India, let's make it rock. And that's the only thing I think I will take as a message from this whole show. Sir, thanks so much. Guys, please like this video, subscribe. And yes, if you can, please do help out the Dev Talks efforts. We recently crossed 7,000. The next milestone is 10. Spread the word, and I will get in touch with you as promised and tell you guys when we are doing this India episode that we just spoke about, so that we can get a nice big crowd and spread the message far and wide. Once again, sir, thank you so much. And till next time, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.